With Alex.
What's up, Kings of War fans? Bring some more Kings of War action to you. We got 2,250 points of Basilea. Right then, here we have. He is the new Basilea Living Legend I got painted up, but today he's just going to be a plain old Phoenix. So in front of him we've got a troop of Paladin Knights. These guys are just naked. We have two hordes of Alohi. One of them has elite and one of them is just naked. Come to here, we have a horde of men-at-arms in front with the Brew of Courage for extra nerve. Character-wise, we have the Bearer of the Holy Icon, and he's got Banner of the Griffin, and then we have a priest with the extra healing item. I think it's called Healing Charm, so he's got heal 5, I believe. Shroud of the Saint, whatever. We've got an Alohi then at the back. Then we have 2 regiments of Paladin Knights. Now, these are my Sisterhood Panther Lancers, but since Helm of the Ram is gone, I don't think these guys are viable anymore, so I'm just proxying them as Paladin Knights. So these are 2 regiments of Paladin Knights, and these guys on the right have the Brew of Courage for crushing strength. Sorry, the Brew of Strength for crushing strength. then 2 regiments of Paladins on foot, and then one of these guys has the Staying Stone for the extra nerve, and that makes up 2,250 points of Basilea. And then against the Basilea today, we've got 2,250 points of Varangur. What have you got next? What's your list, buddy?
Right, so Mounted Sons. They've got the Mark of Fury and Potion of the Caterpillar.
Okay.
That's a Troop of Warband. They've lowered their defense and got Crushing 1, and they've also got the Blade of Slashing for a reroll.
Oh, okay, nice.
Reavers behind them. They've got the Brew of Haste.
Okay, nice.
Then a troop of Horse Raiders. In the front, they're just naked. Then behind them is a Chieftain with the Mark of Fury and Wings of the Honey Maze.
Oh, this guy, okay, right.
I'm taking the loss of Hergia pretty badly, so.
We all are,
Then behind him is the King on Chimera with Fury again and Chant of Hate for Vicious.
This guy's nice, cool. Who else we got?
Horde of Fallen.
Oh, yeah, now these guys have lost their Pathfinder since the nerf in Clash of Kings.
They have, so, but I thought I'd bring them up into line with everybody else and give them Fury with a Chalice of Wrath as well.
Oh, okay, right, nice.
And then you've got 2 units of Bloodsworn, 2 regiments of Bloodsworn. One has the Brew of Courage, one has the Staying Stone, so both the same effect. And they've both got Fury as well.
Nice.
Then back here's a Cavern Dweller, Beast. And then El Mage with Elite and +2 to his Lightning Bolt, so he's Lightning 6.
Oh.
And then finally the legendary Skald with his throwing axe. He's got a mount and Banner of the Griffin.
Nice, so there we go, 2,250 points of Varangur. What's up, guys? Here's another Kings of War game coming for you. Got Basilea against the Varangur, and today we've got the Ransack Scenario. So that's the one when everyone gets objective markers to put down. Some are worth 2, some are worth 1, and there's a 3-pointer in the middle of the game. So 7 objective markers in total. And I think that's probably a pretty good one for me here with the Basilians, because I've got a very mobile army. I've got 4 flyers and I've got 3 units of cavalry. So for those of you that were interested, that is how deployment went down, and I'll just run you through the objectives really quickly. There's the 3-pointer in the middle of the game. That one there is a 2-pointer, that one there is a 2-pointer, and that one, that one, that one, and that one are all 1-pointers. So my thinking here on deployment is, because that's a 3 and that's a 2, I want to heavily contest these, so I'm kind of leaning towards more the right-hand side of the board. So that's why my horde has gone down there, and my regiment of Paladins, and then my horde of Alohi there. I've got lots of wounds to contest that in the middle. And then obviously my Alohi out on the flanks there, and the cavalry out on the flanks, because I always like to put my fast units on the flanks, because I think that's where they're most effective to do some kind of like pincer movement. And then we roll for first turn, and Basilea get first turn, so let's just see the movement. Yeah, so there it is, up as far as I can go with my infantry in the centre. And obviously we've got a bit of a standoff here between the 2 flyers on the left-hand flank, so my Alohi haven't gone up that far. These guys have moved over to allow the cav to come through. My Alohi has gone into the front of the woods there, so I'm leaving this objective behind, but you know, it's pretty secure behind my lines. He's not going to be able to get that with anything he's got, because he can't fly over the top with anything except this guy. And then this hill is causing a bit of problems immediately on first turn, me and my opponent are realizing here, because if I go up onto the hill, then he's got line of sight to me, but if I stay in front of it, you know, he hasn't got line of sight, but then I'm not in range to charge. So yeah, it's a bit of an awkward one, that hill is. So I've just decided to park my units in front of it. And that's pretty much all I can do for Basilea turn 1. So this is what the board is looking like after Varangur's first turn, and if you look on the right hand side, he's pretty much done exactly the same thing, just moved everything up to the base of the hill, and been quite, not aggressive in his movement, but, you know, he knows that he's going to have to accept some charges, because I'm projecting like massive threat ranges from like 1, 2, 3 units of flyers. Even my Phoenix is a flyer, and my Cab. So he's not being cautious with his movement. I think that's probably best. I don't think you can play Varangur defensive. They are a very aggressive army, so that's what his movement is looking like. With the exception, obviously, his king on the Chimera, because yeah, that's become a bit of a standoff with those guys both having a 20-inch range. And then in the shooting phase, then he gets some nice lightning bolts off with his Magus onto my Phoenix, and does 4 wounds, because he's wounding that thing on 2s, don't forget, because Phoenix is running defense 3. And like I say, every battle report with my Basilea guys, you just have to assume that Iron Resolve has been taken into account. So if you see something that's got 3 wounds, just assume it took 4 and 1 was Iron Resolved back, okay? Because I'm not going to say it for every single wound I take at this game. So that's the end of Varangur's first turn. So Basilea turn 2 then, and some charges have been declared. Sorry about the rubbish photo, but I yeah, what can I say? It's a rubbish photo. So here we got some charges then. Everything's moved up in general. Both my regiments of paladins have gone that one's into the woods, and that one's positioned into a way that if it gets charged, they'll have to go through the woods. My Horde of Alohi have moved pivoted just over that bit of difficult terrain, because I didn't want to be involved in that any longer. My regiments of knights have charged in there, my regiment of Alohi have charged in there, and this unit of knights has come across, that unit has gone up, and my Phoenix has gone up to that. So that's basically it for my movement. And then in the shooting phase, yeah, the Phoenix, which I went up, he regened a couple of wounds, and then he put a breath attack onto that little troop there and put 4 wounds on them, which is actually pretty decent from just a breath attack. But unfortunately, I didn't get any luck with the, I was hoping to get a cheeky little waver there, which would be really nice, because this unit of Reavers actually has haste, so their speed's 7, which is awesome for infantry. So I was hoping to tuck them up with a little wavering, but no, unfortunately not. So let's see how we get on in the combats then. And the Horde of Alohi on the right hand side, this unit on the right has elite and the other unit doesn't, and they do look at that, 15 wounds from 18 attacks. They do absolutely incredibly. Roll out the box on that one, and needless to say, rout that little troop of cavalry there. And then my other unit of Paladin Knights, these guys do pretty well as well, considering they're just naked. You know, they haven't got elite, they haven't got crushing or anything like that. They get 11 wounds on that unit of I think it's I think they're called a warband. Anyway, they're defense 5, so they roll really well. But unfortunately, I don't get any luck with that nerve roll. So they just bounce back, and that is what the board is looking like at the end of Basilea turn 2. So first blood goes to Basilea. I'm a little bit concerned about that charge that has left my Alohi exposed, but I just wanted to, do it, and yeah, so there we go. That's how the board is looking like. Let's see how the Varangur respond. So here's the board after the Varangur movement, and lots of charges for the Varangur here. Yeah, so on the right hand side, his little character, the Wings of the Honey Maze, has gone into my troop of knights, and then I've been double charged. My Alohi have been double charged by the Cavern Dweller and the Fallen. So the Fallen aren't as killy since they've been nerfed in the new Clash of Kings, but yeah, really I'm thinking that was a bad move. I don't think I should have sacrificed my Horde of Alohi there for one troop of cavalry. So that was a bad move. I couldn't do much about this thing in the middle because, like I said, those Reavers have a huge charge, so I'm okay with them going into my Horde. My Horde have +2 nerves, so I don't think they can break them in a 1-er. And then I positioned these guys in a way that that troop is hindered because they had to go into the woods. Those knights have Pathfinder, so I'm just hoping my regiment of paladins should be able to hold up. And so what he's done with his dragon is he's turned it and pivoted towards the middle, because like I forgot to say in the last turn, my Uralohai flew up and pivoted right behind his lines there, just to be as pesky and tricksy as possible. So that's all the charges there from the Varangur. If we go on to the shooting, then he puts a breath attack onto my Uralohai and only does 2 wounds onto him. And oh yeah, I forgot to say he's put his BSB behind that unit there because I think he wants to give them rallying. And then the Magus puts another couple of wounds onto the Phoenix. And then Ryan resolves one back. So yeah, luckily that Phoenix regened a couple of wounds then, so he's doing well. So there we go, onto the combats then. And yeah, first off, I get very lucky here, because there's no way that Horde of Aloha should have held up to a double charge from a Cavern Dweller and a Fallen. He puts 11 wounds on them, and then he broke them first time, and then after re-rolling on the Inspiring, he got a 5, and they stick around. So that is lucky. Yeah, that is lucky. I'm pretty chuffed for that. Then the next combat, the Reavers, they bounced straight off the Horde. They only managed to put 8 wounds on them. I think he just rolled pretty poorly here, because they're Thunderous 2, so they're wounding on 2s, and I think he gets something like 25 attacks from them Reavers, something like that, and they're wounding on 2s, so really not well. But let's be honest, he was never going to pop them in a 1-out. He needed something like 25, so they bounced back as well. That little troop, needless to say, they put 1 wound on the Paladin Knights and bounced back. You know, they weren't going to do that much damage. And yeah, so sorry about the blurry photo again, but he just rolls really poorly with his Mounted Sons of Korgan, puts 10 wounds on my Paladins and wavers them. So that is unfortunate. I think he really needed those to pop. And then yeah, his little flying character puts 2 wounds on my Knights and then again bounce back. The unit of Bloodsworn also do really poorly and managed to only put 2 wounds onto the regiment of Paladin Knights on the left-hand side. And yeah, so that is what the board is looking like at the end of the Varangur turn. So something like 7 rounds of combat there, 7 charges declared, and not a single rout. So that's an absolute disaster for the Varangur that turn, because you know, they need to pop some stuff with those charges basically, and they haven't managed to break anything. So what a total nightmare. Let's see how the Basilea respond. And here's the board after Basilea turn 3, and a couple of charges have happened here. So, yeah, my Knights have gone into the flank of those Reavers. Now, those Reavers are defense, I think they're defense 3, so basically I'm wounding them on 2. So, yeah, with that flank charge, they should be okay. The Uralohai has gone into that pesky Magus. My Phoenix has flown over here to get some healing onto the Elohai, who have elected to charge the Cavern Dweller. Now, the Cavern Dweller and the Fallen are both very similar stats, so here it was pretty much 6 of one, half dozen the other. There wasn't a huge amount of difference, so I elected the Cavern Dweller, which in hindsight was probably wrong because that guy's got regen. So yeah, if I do that again, I probably would have gone into the Pathfinder, just into the I keep calling them Pathfinder, the Fallen, even though they don't actually have Pathfinder anymore. Just because the Fallen have a higher movement, so they probably got a little bit more threat. So if I had to do that again, I would have gone into the Fallen. These guys have countercharged into here, and then countercharge here, and something happens over here, which I'll let you guys know now. So yeah, I get quite lucky with my regiment of my Knights here, because they lose their Thunderer, so they only put 2 wounds onto that onto those Bloodsworn, because they're wounding them on 5s. But I get 2 decent rolls on the nerve rolls, and I rout them. So that's definitely a bonus. And yeah, so in this combat here, if I make my headstrong with my Paladins and double charge those Knights, then I would have to put my Elohai into the woods. So I elect to not move my Paladins, so they stay exactly where they are, and that way when I charge my Elohai in, they don't actually clip the woods. They can find the front of his base without going into the woods, so they're not hindered. So yeah, a little bit cheeky there. A little bit cheeky, but you know, hey, that's the way you play the game. Those are the rules, man. I don't make the rules. So yeah, so just the Elohai have gone into the front of the unit of Mounted Sons, and I can't remember how many wounds I put on them. I think it was about 8, maybe 8, 10, something like that. But anyway, I don't rout them, but I do strip their Thunderous, which is the main thing. And yeah, they get healed. The Paladins get healed there by my priest. And then onto the combats here. Yeah, that little troop was already wounded by the Phoenix from the breath attack in like turn 2. So even my Paladins managed to finish them off. They put 7 and routed them. And then they weren't going to stand up to that flank charge from the Knights. We didn't even roll for my horde of men-at-arms, and they just literally blew through them on a double ones. Sorry, anything but a double one, so they blew through them, so they were routed as well. My Elohai, he does quite well actually. From 6 attacks, puts 5 wounds on the Magus, which is really good, but that's how dirty Varangur are. Even their spellcasters are defense 5 and have something like a 12-14 nerve or something ridiculous like that. So, yeah, so he's just wavered, unfortunately. Pain in the ass. And yeah, here my little troop of knights only managed to put 1 wound on that guy, but that's enough because I just wanted to strip his thunder in and keep him bogged down. I'm more than happy for this combat just to go on for ages, just to keep that little flyer grounded. And then I get very lucky here. This unit of Elohai, the Horde, have Elite, which I think is really good because you know, even if you lose your Thunderous and you've only got your Crushing 1, at least you've got something like 15, 16 hits going through, which is exactly what happened here. I think I had something like 16 hits out of 18 attacks and then did 8 wounds. Wounding on 4s, and then just got really lucky on the nerve roll and managed to pop him. I think I rolled a 10 on the nerve roll and he was out of inspiring range, and yeah, I got very lucky there. I popped the Cabin Dweller. This flank could have gone horribly wrong and it's turned out okay, so that's a bit of luck there. And that is what the board is looking like at the end of Basilea turn 3. So a really successful turn from the Basilea. The Elohai have just faced over there. The Knights have faced that way. These are all the reforms, and yeah, I think the board's looking pretty damn good at the end of turn 3. I don't think I've suffered a single casualty yet, and I've taken a lot of points off the board. So let's see if the Varangur can turn this around. So here's it before their movement, and there's the board after their movement. So yeah, the usual charges you'd expect on the right-hand flank, and that regiment of Bloodsworn, yeah, thank you. They've gone into the flank of the Paladins. The Mounted Sons have decided to go into the Paladins. The Magus has moved himself out of trouble, and unfortunately there wasn't any good charge options for the King on Chimera, so he's just pivoted and decided to unload a breath attack on that regiment of Paladin Knights there. Yeah, and that's quite blurry, so that's a better angle there. So yeah, so despite just having a standard breath attack, which would be hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, he manages to put 3 wounds on that regiment of knights and wavers them. So that is absolutely clutch as hell by the King on Chimera. So he's had 4 turns of mulling around doing nothing, but he unloads a hell of a breath attack, and he might have just saved those Mounted Sons of Korgan. So yeah, good effort. Varangur needs some decent dice. He needs to make a comeback this turn, and that's a very good start. And the Mounted Sons have gone into the front of the Paladins because they were heavily wounded, so despite them getting healed from the priest, they managed to take enough wounds to get routed. So there we go, as a waver and a rout. Good start for the Varangur. But they're not so good here because the Bloodsworn, despite having double attacks, they totally fluff their attacks basically, and only managed to put 3 wounds on that regiment of knights. I wasn't overly worried because they were in range of Banner of the Griffin, so I knew they had rallying and their defense 5. And these guys have only got crushing 1, so I wasn't overly worried, but 2 wounds is really poor there. But the Fallen, these guys do awesome because the Phoenix only manages to heal 2 wounds onto the Elohai, so they were on 8. And despite fluffing their attacks, like totally fluffing their attacks and putting 1 wound on the Horde of Elohai, he then needs an 8-up re-rolling to rout them, and he gets it. And they are routed. So he absolutely needed that. That was good work by the Fallen there. And yeah, same again. This little, I think he's a chieftain, is he, with Wings of the Honey Maze. Again, who does 1 wound or something really poor like that, but then gets a really good nerve roll and wavers that little troop of knights. So a really good response there by the Varangur, wavering 2 units and routing 2 units. That's about as best as they could have possibly hoped for, I reckon. Good response, Varangur. Let's see how the Basilians do in the next turn. Basilea turn 4 then, and this is the board before the movement phase, and this is the board after it. So charges as you'd expect on the right hand side, just 2 counter charges there. My Aloha has gone into the rear of that unit of Bloodsworn, and my Horde has gone into the front. My regiment of Paladins there have just pivoted to face towards the Mounted Sons, and they've gone slightly into the woods, still keeping within distance of that scoring token. And then luckily my regiment of Paladins Knights there, they pass the headstrongness now on a 3-up, and they get a front charge into the Mounted Sons, and that enables my Horde of Aloha to get a front charge into his king on Chimera. Let's see. My Phoenix moves up to put a breath attack on his Magus. But yeah, that guy again being defense 5 means I can only put 2 wounds on him, and I wave him, which is a little unfortunate. I would have liked the route there, but oh well. At least he won't be casting anything next turn. And then combat-wise, this is turning into a bit of a slugfest, to be honest, with no one really getting the upper hand. I think I put a wound on him to strip his flying, but don't do much else. He's not even wavered. And then my my regiment of Paladin Knights, I only managed to do, I think the Fallen have Iron Resolve, right? I think so. So I think that's 3 wounds they put on them, which, yeah, that's really poor. I expected more than that. That's really poor, but, you know, they lost their Thunderous, but they do have Crushing, so all the same, yeah, again, a little bit of a wet noodle fight, that one. In the middle, yeah, the Aloha has Crushing 2 and Thunderous 1, so he's wounding those Bloodsworn on 2s. So he alone did something like 12 wounds, and then I think we just rolled the nerve roll because I got an 8. So yeah, so that unit of Bloodsworn is routed, so that's a good start. And then, oh yeah, right, so my regiment of Paladin Knights here, despite losing their Thunderous, because they were wavered, don't forget, so even when you pass your Headstrong roll, you are still disordered, which means you lose your Thunderous charge. So don't forget that rule, guys, if you do pass your Headstrong. So I was wounding on 5s here, and if you have a look at my dice, after 10 hits, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 wounds on 10 hits, wounding on 5s. That was just incredible dice. And then what's even more incredible dice, yeah, double one the nerve. So those guys were sitting on 16 wounds, and then I double one it. Which just absolutely sucks. So that's a good break for the Varangur, because I think they needed that. So those guys are free to make a counter charge next turn. And then the Aloha, let's have a look. They don't do too well, actually. They only put 6 wounds on King on Chimera there, which, you know, this guy's got something like 20 nerves, so he can take 6 wounds all day long. And that is the end of Basilea turn. So 1 waiver on the Magus, but other than that, literally nothing. Yeah, I routed that unit of Bloodsworn, which really weren't doing much anyway, but in the key combat's just really failing hard. I need to get this guy off the board, and I need to get them off the board. So not a great turn, really. I was looking for more than that. Let's see how the Varangur respond. So this is the board at the end of Varangur movement, and pretty much just counter charges everywhere you'd expect, nothing crazy at all. Let's see how they got on in the combat phase. So yeah, that unit of Mounted Sons, after getting double ones, they counter charge straight back into that regiment of Paladin Knights, and don't do that well on the wounds, but they do manage to get their nerve roll done despite the Aloha inspiring them, and they rout them. And yeah, there we go, that's Mounted Sons, they're capable of doing that. And then, yeah, the King on Chimera, he does 8 wounds onto the Aloha Horde. So this guy has 10 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s. So he is certainly capable of outputting 10 wounds from 10 attacks. Luckily, he only gets 8. So that means he needs a 9 re-rolling to rout this horde of Aloha. And he gets a 9 on the first one, and then he misses it on the second one. And literally, I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, I could lose the game on this dice roll. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, luckily enough, they stick around. And there we go, they Iron Resolve 1 back to 7. And this is what the board is looking like at the end of the Varangur turn, because if you have a look, I forgot to take a photo of this. So I couldn't believe it. This Horde of Fallen, they charge into the counter-charge the unit of Paladin Knights that are only sitting on 2 wounds and rout them. Which I'm like, whoa, I couldn't believe it. So just some really good dice there. In fairness, I did make a mistake. If you have a look at my Phoenix, I moved him over here to breath attack his Magus, when really I didn't need to. If I'd left him like here, I could have still breath attacked the Magus and left him in inspiring range for the Paladin Knights. So my mistake, I totally dropped the ball on that. I should have left him in inspiring range. I think he needed something like an 8 re-rolling or something. So, you know, yeah, that's just me. But wow, what a comeback for the Varangur here. They've routed a regiment of knights. They were so close to routing that horde of Alohai, and they've mounted the other regiment of knights. And I've gone from being pretty safe for the victory on turn 3 to being, oh my god, I could lose this game on turn 4. So what a comeback by the Varangur. So, Basilea turn 5 then, and my Ur-Alohai has gone into the flank of the Mounted Sons. I decided to put him in instead of my Paladins because I'm okay with them just sitting on the 3-point objective. It's a bit annoying that I have to commit this guy just to get these guys off the board, and they should have been off the board last turn, but oh well. He routes them on anything but a double 1 and then reforms to face towards the king. And then my Horde of Alohai, they do really well this turn, actually. They managed to put more wounds on the King on Chimera this turn than they did last turn, despite actually not having their Thunderous. So he's up to 14, and I'm really hoping to get a lucky nerve roll on him, but unfortunately I don't. I only needed a 6 re-roll in, but I don't get it, so he's still around, and that's a bit frustrating. I was hoping for a bit of luck there. And in the meantime, you might have noticed that these guys have gone down to 3 wounds, because I piled my Phoenix over, and the Priest, and both of them having heal 6. I had heal 12 going on those Alohai, but I managed to only heal them for something like 5 wounds. I would have liked a lot more than that because I still think he's got the ability to kill them next turn. So that's a bit of a shame as well, just the dice not going in my favour on that one. And this combat was a bit like, yeah, I think I just did 1 wound and I got a lucky wavering on the guy, but it makes no difference because he's got Fury anyway. And that is pretty much what the board is looking like at the end of the Basilea turn. So I do manage to get those Sons off the board, and I get some decent wounds onto that King, but I don't get him off the board, unfortunately, and I don't manage to heal my Basilea enough to make it matter, unfortunately. But, oh yeah, and obviously with my Horde of Men-at-Arms, because I left them facing the other way, because I didn't anticipate that combat going that way, all I can do is just pivot them. So the option is there for the Fallen to charge either the Paladins or the Horde. So I've parked my BSB in the middle to give both these units rally in 1. So that is what the board is looking like at the end of Basilea turn 5. So the Varangur in the next turn then, in this combat, this is absolutely clutch. The King on Chimera goes back into the Horde of Alohai and manages to put 7 wounds on them this turn, putting them up to 10, and then he gets a 3 on the nerve roll. Oh, he only needed a 7, and he got it the first time, and he didn't get it the second time. So that combat is huge, because if he'd routed them, he can turn to face the board, and then I'm in a world of trouble. So, yeah, the heals from the Phoenix and the Priest coming up really big time there, and saving the Alohai and potentially saving the game for the Basilea. So I'm absolutely chuffed with that. I think this combat really could have gone either way. The whole game is just those dice on the nerve rolls, but you know, there we go, that's nerve rolls for you. And then, yeah, that was bad, but this is literally amazing. The Fallen charge into the front of this Horde, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm safe as houses here. They weren't sitting on that many wounds, plus they've got +1 nerve, plus they got +2 nerve for rallying. So they've got 25 nerve, and these Fallen do 14 wounds from 18 attacks. Which I don't, they've only got crushing 1, and they just blow this Horde out of the water in 1 round of combat and rout them completely, which I couldn't believe. So that worked out. It's just, these Fallen have just turned up big time. They've got a hell of a game. So yeah, fair play to the Varangur. They're fighting till the end. And this guy as well comes at big time. He does 1 or 2 wounds and then wavers this little regiment of knights. And that is the end of the Varangur turn. So, turn 6 for the Basilea, and potentially the last turn of the game, and I'd flank the King on Chimera with my Ur-Alohai and charge these guys back in as well, and then rout the King on Chimera. Now, that's massive overkill, because obviously the Horde of Alohai could have done it on their own, but basically I'd face this guy across this side of the board, because I didn't anticipate these guys hanging around, so he didn't have any other charge options, so that's why I just put him into the side. So that King on Chimera is gone, and everyone reforms, and then I just basically I move my Phoenix down to this 2-point objective. I move my little bearer of the Holy Icon in front of the Fallen to chaff them up, and then I park my Paladins on the 3-point objective in the middle, because this is potentially the last turn of the game. So basically, I've taken off that his king, which was a scoring unit. So the way I see it, he only has 1 scoring unit left on the board. So, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention my my regiment of Paladin Knights. They fail their headstrong on a 3-up. I think I got like a 1 or a 2, and yeah, so I don't take that guy's flying. So that is the end of Basilea turn 6, and I think I'm in a pretty good position here. I'm on 1 point there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, and yeah, the Varangur only have 1 scoring unit, which I've chaffed up, so I should be game. So Varangur turn 6 then, and in the shooting phase, the Magus opens up with some lightning bolts onto this horde of a low-high, and does manage to put 3 wounds on them, but unfortunately doesn't get the break on the nerve roll. So that Magus has had a decent good game, actually. He's taken a pasting, he's been charged in the yellow low-high, and he's been wavered, and he's taken a couple of wounds, but he's still managing to pop off loads of lightning bolts right till the end. But unfortunately, he just doesn't get the nerve. This guy finally manages to rout that little regiment of Paladin Knights, and he makes a little overrun, and then the Fallen, yeah, they obviously rout this guy, and they make their little overrun, and that is what the board is looking like at the end of the Varangur turn 6. So we're off for another turn, and we don't get it. That's the end of the game. So Varangur scored 2 points on that one, and then the Basilea scored 2 there, 3, 4, 5, and 6 points there. So it's a 6-2 victory to the Basilea. So there we go, guys, another Kings of War battle report. Hope you enjoyed that one. A very good game, very well fought on both sides. Basilea definitely getting the upper hand in the first few turns of the game, and I very much thought the victory was in the bag around turn 3, but then I had second thoughts come turn 4 and 5 when Varangur started to make a bit of a comeback. But yeah, overall, very well fought. I think where the Varangur probably went wrong is failing to utilise their flyers. A lot of points in that King on Chimera, and he just couldn't come into the game, really. My MVP probably goes to the High. These are just fantastic units for the Basilea. I think 180 points. He gets Crushing 2, he gets Thunderous 1, and you know, just that tiny base, the 40 mil base, and he's just got such massive mobility around the board, and when he can get flank and rear charge off, he can become potentially very devastating and a real handful for your opponent to deal with, and he was this game, definitely. Honourable mention, though, goes to the Fallen. These guys have been nerfed since Clash of Kings 2018 because they've lost their Pathfinder, but not only that, with the removal of Helm for the Ram, they've been nerfed again, because I think that item is pretty much an auto-include on the Fallen because of their high speed and their nimble, so when they've got, like, you know, Thunderous 1 and Crushing Strength and all that speed, they were very good, and now they're just good. But these guys, they turned up big time today, and well done to the Varangur General for putting them in his list, despite the fact that they've been nerfed. He could have easily dropped them, but he put them in there and just proved that they're still a very viable unit, so well done. So that's it from me. I'll catch you on the next one.